Wait, what about weird?
Hi, I'm Elena.
And I'm Echo.
And this is our podcast, What About Weird? A podcast discussing all things weird from cryptids and aliens to strange science and unhinged history. I don't even care that I fucked that up. Let's keep going. I'm tired.
I didn't hear that you fucked that one up. That
I
one was
said
fine.
disgusting. Again, but...
Whatever.
Let's go. We've had some technical difficulties. It's so late for us right now.
I'm so tired.
Me too. Let's do this. This is going to be a stupid episode. This episode was all over the place. I went down so many rabbit holes. I'm going to try and speedrun this, but we'll see how well it goes.
Oh God, okay.
I probably won't be able to speedrun it because I do want this to be a little bit of a discussion.
Okay.
So, formerly the Asheville Tourists, the minor league baseball team changed their name to the Asheville Snot Otters for a game against the Winston-Salem Dash on June 6th, 2025.
June 6th.
That's my downfall. That is the one word, one of the few words where my lisp comes out is with Sith. Sith. The day after the 5th of June, 2025. They now change their name every now and then between the Tourists and the Snot Otters. The special
their original name is the Tourists?
The original name is the Tourists.
What? That's a crazy mascot.
I get into crazy baseball names, don't you worry.
My God,
I told you I went down a lot of rabbit holes and learned way too much about minor league baseball than I ever thought I would. So the special name is only brought out for promotional events. Well, not alone in the realm of weird NC minor league baseball team names, along with the Gastonia Ghost Peppers, the Burlington Sock Puppets, and the Durham Bulls. Go Bulls. I'm required by law to say that since I'm from Durham. Sometimes being nicknamed the Durham Lollygaggers.
Well, that's not a good nickname to have.
Because of the movie Bull Durham. Have you ever seen it?
Mm-mm.
I had fun with it. It was one of those movies that I put on and just kind of zoned out. It was so weird watching stuff and being like, I know where that is because it's filmed in Durham and then there's parts where it's supposed to be in Durham and then they film it in Raleigh.
Huh.
And it's so weird because it
At least
was
they still did it in the state.
They did it in the town. Most of it in the town other than like 3 bar scenes.
Huh.
And it's so weird because like there's a scene where, what's her name, Susan Sarandon is walking by, like, my high school. I'm like, I know that wall. It's so weird. But, yeah, so there's a line in that of someone on the Durham Bulls. Like, the coach was like, you lollygag in and out of the field. You lollygag around. You lollygag out of the dugouts. And they just became nicknamed the Lollygaggers because of that. There's some weird names. Also, I like how you just scooted by the Burlington Sock Puppets.
That's my favorite one.
That's my favorite one.
That one's outstanding. That's a very good team mascot.
Yeah, I don't follow baseball. I've been to some Bulls games. I don't have any Bulls merch, but I want Snot Otter merch because that sounds so funny, and I want sock puppet merch just because it's funny. So, you may be wondering, why are we talking about minor league baseball? I don't know about you, but I know jack shit about sports. But we're not talking about sports. We're talking about the Snot Otter.
You know what the Rocky Mountains baseball team mascot is? It's Rocky Mountain Vibes, and he's like a fucking like marshmallow or something.
That's so funny. My favorite mascot of all time is the little ass town in Indiana that my grandparents are from, that I don't think is even a town anymore, was called Jimtown. And their mascot was the Jimmies. It was just a man named Jimmy in a hard hat.
Oh, his name is Toasty, and he's a fucking flaming marshmallow s'more guy.
I love that.
Baseball's wild.
Baseball, I don't know anything about baseball, but like doing this research, I'm like, I want to look into baseball now.
The team mascots are so much better than like football.
Yeah, also minor league just gets funny and weird. I went down a whole rabbit hole of them, but I was like, okay, how many other weird names are there? And so I looked up a bunch of them.
A million, yeah, I love it.
But yeah, do you know what a Snot Otter is?
No.
Cool, you're gonna learn you some stuff. Also known as the Allegheny alligator, the devil dog, the mud dog, the lasagna lizard, the mud cat, the mud puppy, the ground puppy, Grampus, and the water dog, or, more commonly called, the Eastern Hellbender.
The lasagna lizard is my favorite.
Grampus is my favorite.
Lasagna lizard and Grampus are, like, top 2 for sure.
Yeah, we always call them either hellbenders or mud puppies.
Those are cute.
Yeah.
Even Hellbender is cute.
Hellbender's really cute. They're said to look like they came from hell and were damn well bent to return. Which is so funny.
That's funny.
It's so funny. This slimy little guy looks exactly what you might think of for a little river monster, and almost as elusive, and a whole hell of a lot cuter than a lot of other river monsters. So it's no wonder there's a lot of legends about this creature. So, for those of you who don't know, the Hellbender is a giant salamander that lives in the rivers of Appalachia, and we're going to be digging into that today and a little bit of the folklore of them.
See, I heard of Hellbenders, but I hadn't heard the name Snot Otter.
Yeah, I just want to call it Snot Otter because it sounds like a cryptid, and we're getting into the folklore, and it's kind of like an actual cryptid, but not really, because I'll get into it later, but people will see it and not know what it is and think that they have seen a river monster or something. And I was kind of I've been wanting to do this episode since we started the podcast, but I was really inspired to do it now since we want to do a local lore episode, and Greg's Cryptid Corner just did a wonderful episode on, was it the Griggstown cow? Which was like a cow that people were seeing around for 30 years.
But it was just an actual cow.
Yeah, it's just an actual cow. And so they were talking about, like, what is a cryptid and stuff, and so I wanted to do this as our version of that. You should go listen to that episode. It's a cool discussion.
It's fun.
But so I was like, I'm going to do that now because we're going to do local lore. And they just did that episode. And now I'm inspired. So shout out to them. So where was I? The Eastern Hellbender is a large aquatic salamander that lives in cool permanent streams across 15 states up and down the Appalachian Mountains. A permanent stream is a stream that doesn't dry up and just stays there. So like a river, like the French Broad or Rock Creek, or I don't think there's none in the Eno, but stuff that doesn't dry up. The cool, clear water is very important because hellbenders breathe through their skin, which contains a bunch of different folds. They're really wrinkly. Like the name lasagna lizard comes from them having these folds up and down their skin, these like ruffles around them.
That's amazing.
They're so cool. I love these guys. And
so they don't breathe through their mouth at all? Or they do and they just also breathe through their skin?
I'll get into it later, but when they're younger, they have gills. When they're older, they primarily breathe through their skin.
Huh.
So most salamanders breathe through lungs or gills. So this is sort of a unique thing to hellbenders. So they spend most of their life hiding among rocks and like fallen logs in the water, in gravel beds. And there's 2 species of hellbender. There's the Eastern Hellbender, and there's also the slightly smaller Ozark Hellbender, which is a smaller, lighter color.
I like the name of that one, too.
The Ozark Hellbender?
Yeah.
Yes, just because they're in the Ozarks.
Yeah. Ozark is just a cool name. Like, where did that name come from?
I don't know. You know what else is a fun name that's also in the same area? Okefenokee.
That is great.
I was listening to the soundtrack from Gator recently, and there's a line in the theme song where it's like, everything's okie dokie in the Okefenokee. And all morning I was just doing that. I'm just like, to myself, I'm just like, everything's okie dokie in the Okefenokee.
When I'm in a good mood, I'm just going to start saying that. Everything's okie dokie in the Okefenokee.
Burt Reynolds movies have no reason to have that good of, like, I mean, they probably do have a reason to have that good of a, like, soundtrack, but there's always, like, a great theme song.
Okay, now say it 5 times fast.
Everything's Okefenokee. Okefenokee. We just shot the microphone. Everything's okie dokie and the Okefenokee. Anyway, the Ozark Hellbender, not in the Okefenokee. The Eastern Hellbender is the largest salamander in North America. It can grow up to 2 feet long and around 3 pounds, and the skin on its back is sort of grayish brown with red spots. And it varies based off of, obviously, where they live in. Like most other animals with camouflage, it varies based off of where they are. And then they have a lighter stomach, as a lot of other animals do. And that's usually isn't mottled and spotted. It's just one color. They have a flat body and head. So they're squished. it helps them get in the little crevices and stuff. They have a rounded like snout and little beady underdeveloped eyes. I read one source that said that they had underdeveloped eyes, but despite this, they had great eyesight. And then I looked up how they see, and I was like, that's not how that works. So how they see is they can't see in clear. They can't see clear stuff. But so they can see light, the like contrast in light and dark really well, but they can't make out details very well.
Okay.
And so because of this, they primarily catch food through smell and touch. So something will touch them or they'll smell it in the water, and that's how they track it down.
That's so cool.
Which is pretty common among a lot of salamanders as well.
I just love animal biology.
I know, it's so cool.
So
that's
neat.
why every time I do a cryptid episode that I can, I'm like, animal facts. And anybody who's like, I wonder if this is the case with an animal, I'm like, here is the entire biology of the animal, because fuck you, that's why. We are feeling spicy today.
Just the need to over-explain everything.
Yeah.
My God,
yeah.
it's like, it's terrible. Because I'm worse than a damn man.
Man!
You talk about mansplaining, like, I'm worse.
Yeah, it's so bad. This is why we started a podcast, was because we're just so full of fun facts. We're like, we need to start a podcast because we're annoying everyone around us, being like, do you know about how Betty Andreessen was abducted and she saw monkey creatures and the gray aliens use their eyes to create new eyes? And people are like, get away from me.
I'm like, you want to hear about fungi?
And we were both like, yeah, I want to hear about fungi and the weird alien monkey creatures. And that's why we started this podcast and why we're friends. Anyways.
Sorry, I keep derailing everything all the time.
We are so tired and punchy. It's past our bedtime. So the way that they breathe, they absorb the dissolved oxygen in the water, and the hatchlings, up to about 1 to 2 years, do have external gills, and these gill slots, the gills are located at the base of the neck. So kind of where you'd see, like if you picture any other salamander or like an axolotl, you know, where their like little frills are.
I love axolotls.
They're so cute. But when they get older, they start being able to absorb oxygen through their skin, and they don't use their gills as much. And they mature at about 6 to 8 years, and maturity means like old enough to reproduce. So 6 to 8 years is like pretty old for a lot of animals to start like reproducing, because most of them it's like 3-ish years or younger. And at that point, they're usually about a foot long by the time they reach maturity, and they keep growing from there. They can live up to 30 years old. The average lifespan of most salamanders is 5 to 15 years, with certain species of Asian giant salamanders living 5 to 70 years depending on the species. There's some rumors that the species of giant salamanders can live 100 to 200 years.
What?
But this has never been proven.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I just think that's cool, because I love how big animals just live like fucking forever. You know what I mean? Like, there's some animals that's just like the bigger they get, the longer they live. There's some animals that the bigger they get, the shorter they live. But, like, with turtles and salamanders, they're just like, I'm going to get really big and really old.
I guess that's true. I was thinking, like, in most cases, the bigger they get, the younger they die. But I guess with turtles, yeah, that's not quite true. Know. But that's what we were talking about in the Mammoth Cave episode, is that the cave salamanders can live, like,
really long. Yeah.
Like, a long time.
Salamanders are just so cool. They're so fascinating.
Did you know that there's a blind aquatic salamander that can live almost 100 years, though?
I did not know that. I believe it, though.
It's fucking crazy.
But salamanders are so cool. I think I get into it later, but they're a indicator species. Which you know what they are, but I keep forgetting that a lot of other people don't know the stuff that we know all the time. But an indicator species is a species used by wildlife biologists to sort of tell the health of an environment, because they're sort of more fragile species. And hellbenders are a great indicator species. A lot of amphibians are, but they need like really clear water, a lot of good food. They're really sensitive to pollutants and toxins and stuff. And so if you see a lot of them, then that means the ecosystem is doing well. When I did my, I did a some like field research a while ago. That was something that I looked at for like this, it was like a water quality survey, was indicator species, and seeing how much of them there were, and like just kind of based off of like noticing, oh, there's a bunch of frogs here, that means it's a healthy ecosystem. There's a bunch of salamanders here, there's a healthy ecosystem. I did actually see a hellbender when I was doing that project, which was really cool because not a lot of people see them. Bit more about the biology. I got a lot of biology on this because I could. I just want to talk about salamanders because they're cool. We're gonna get into some weird, cool, like, folklore about them, don't worry. Male hellbenders are the caretakers for the eggs and the young, which is also unique among salamanders. There's a lot of cool, unique things among them.
Yeah, that's cool.
And the males will find a large rock or burrow and just hide in the space under where the eggs will be laid, and he'll wait to entice a female into his space. He basically finds a great little hidey hole and just pokes his head out and just waits for a female to come along and be like, hey.
Yeah, that's exactly what they sound like.
That's how I attract a mate. I just sneeze. But they just stick their little heads out of their little burrows, and they just hang out there until a female comes along and is like, that's a good hole. That's a good quality hole.
Love that. That's actually so cute.
The females will come in, they'll lay the eggs, the males will fertilize them, and then just hang out there and protect the eggs and the young until they hatch.
I love a good dad. I love that.
And then the mom will just go off and be a deadbeat.
Wow. You know what? Good for a
beating
fucking
the
change.
standards.
Literally.
Beating the stereotypes. We love to see it. So hellbenders are harmless and are not poisonous or venomous, despite a lot of popular beliefs.
Well, they sound like they would be poisonous.
They sound like they would be. Because a lot of people get this mixed up. I sometimes get it mixed up, so I understand, but it does slightly irk me when people get it mixed up. Poisonous is you eat it, you die. Venomous is it bites you, you die.
Yeah.
So.
I know the difference, and I still say it wrong sometimes.
Yeah, I still say it wrong. So I know the difference.
I still always use, like, poisonous for, like, both, even though I know that that's not the correct term.
I'll sometimes use poisonous for everything, but I'm really good. I don't do it the other way around where I use venomous for other things.
Yeah, that's exactly how I do it.
Like, when someone says a frog is venomous, I'm like, ah! Enraged biologist noises.
Because that one definitely sounds wrong. Yeah. It's like, no.
I like to picture a little frog with little vampire fangs.
But then I do see, like, a lot of people who are like, this snake is poisonous. I'm like, I mean, no, but...
Yeah, it's like, I understand.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. So many people are frightened of hellbenders because they kind of look weird and because they think that they're poisonous or venomous, either one, and kill them out of fear or ignorance, which, where have we heard that before?
That is so sad. Like, I'm sorry. If you don't know what it is, or, like, even if it's, like, dangerous to you, or even if it is, like, legitimately dangerous to you, why fucking kill it?
Also, I need you to take a look at these guys, because I'm sure you probably know what they look like, but, yeah, like, how could you kill that? Look at him.
Listen,
look at his cute little face.
I don't like things in the water. If I saw that would scare the ever-loving shit out of me.
I want to give it a little kiss on the forehead.
There's no way I would kill it. I would just get the fuck out of the water. Like, what is wrong with people?
Look at him. He's got a little foot.
Yeah, that one's actually really cute.
Kiss. Look at him. That one go home. He's got a big old mouth. But like, I don't know. Maybe I just find kind of gross things cute. Because I also find snapping turtles cute.
It's cute.
Yeah. Except for pugs. The fact that they can't breathe isn't cute. Like, they're cute because they're dogs.
It's just sad. They're cute, but they make me sad.
Yeah. So another common misconception is that they negatively impact trout populations. They will occasionally eat trout, but mostly smaller fish, or occasionally eat fish, but they'll eat smaller fish if the opportunity presents itself. But fish are normally too fast for them, and they tend to instead eat dead fish or other dead animals in the water.
See, that's perfect. That's actually really good for the environment.
And like a lot of times they'll eat discarded bait, but their main food source is crawdads.
Oh, well, there we go.
Yeah, which is cool. But it's actually the other way around where a lot of fish predate, yes, that's the word, on the larval or the young hellbenders. The NC Wildlife Resource Commission has designated the eastern hellbender a species of special concern because they are a protected species. It's illegal to harm, collect, or harass or sell them. So if you see one in the wild, don't go picking it up unless you are a research biologist.
And don't kill it, you stupid fucker. Like, god damn, people.
Yeah.
That made me so mad. Stop killing stuff.
Yeah,
Just stop.
If you don't understand it, don't kill it. Yeah, unless it's actively threatening you and actively attacking you. But that's a different story.
Yeah.
So, hellbenders are present in the North Carolina mountain counties. They do usually live below 3,000 feet in elevation in a lot of other states. North Carolina is home to 48 species of salamander, which is the most of any state. So North Carolina is the salamander capital of the United States.
Wow.
Which is why we have a salamander on our driver's license.
That's cool. And I love the salamander on our driver's licenses.
Yeah, it's so cute. I'll post a picture of probably not my license, but of a license.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't.
Of a license, because the tail is like your last and first name, and I'm not going to dox myself, but it's like a little salamander. I think it's like a silver barred salamander or something. I don't remember off the top of my head. It is the state salamander is what it's patterned after, but there's a salamander on it, which is really cool. But 35 of those 48 species do live in the mountains, including the hellbender, which it's kind of, I wrote the scientific name, which I'm not going to pronounce because we all know I can't pronounce it.
Wait, should I try?
It's interesting because it has crypto in it. This is the third species we've...
Oh, Cryptobronchus alleganiensis.
Probably similar to Allegheny. I don't know.
Alleganiensis is how I would pronounce it.
Yeah, that little pre-bit crypto was also in the scientific name for alligator snapping turtles.
Cryptobronchus.
And then there's one of...
Will you look up what that prefix means? Because I'm kind of curious now.
Yeah, because we had it in a mushroom. We had it in the alligator snapping turtles.
Yeah, it's very common.
Yeah. It means hidden or secret. So it's like a...
Whoa, I like that.
It's a more... that makes sense.
It's a secret.
Yeah, we've been over this. I'm not good at English. I'm not good at language. But that makes sense with cryptid being like an animal a creature that is hidden.
I never knew that that's what that prefix was.
I was wondering about that, if like... Because I've heard that in other contexts, and like it makes sense with cryptid, and I was wondering if it's like, this is a creature that hides among things. So let's dig into the lore a little bit. Many native tribes up and down the Appalachians call the hellbender walking catfish in their language, which if you look at it, it does kind of look like a catfish with legs.
Yeah.
I got a lot of this lore from a wonderful paper written by Andrew Craig, I think, from Georgia State University. I have to look again at my sources. I'll post it, but it's fascinating about cryptid hunting and lore and the salamanders and gastology clubs and like how they connect to like the idea of masculinity in the like 1800s is fascinating. I talked to you about this earlier this week. So I pulled a lot of this lore from that. It was really well researched paper. But so there's a lot of encounters with hellbenders during colonial periods where people would encounter them and it's like, hey, what is this? It looks like a catfish with legs. Or some other people were saying it looks like a like some sort of mini alligator. It kind of captured the colonial imagination, and it sort of landed it among the what's the term? The realm of cryptids, which at the time included things like the mountain gorillas, which now we know are actual animals, or more folkloric stories of Bigfoot and other cryptids. And these are all stories that the colonists are hearing from the natives and are like, oh, that's just some story. And then they'll see something like the mountain gorillas, or in this case, the hellbenders, and like, oh, that's real. And so it piques their interest and they try and look at it. And they start creating all these stories about it. So I dug into some of the history of folklore history of salamanders all over the world. Some legends say that salamanders were created when glass blowers stoked their fires for 7 days straight and they just crawled out of them.
What?
Other lore says that salamanders were born from burning logs, which makes sense because if you find a salamander that's semi-aquatic, like you have a log and you throw it in and it starts burning, a salamander that's living in there is going to run out.
Crawl out, yeah.
And especially the like red and black ones, you're like, oh, that looks like it's made of fire. And it's climbing out of a flaming log.
Yeah, it was formed in the hellfires.
Yeah. And some people think that actually, like you said, the hellfires, there are stories of salamanders being connected to hell, especially with the fiery iconography, to, like you said, hell, and being like creatures that are symbols of sin. And some people think that's where people saying that hellbenders look like they came from hell. Which is kind of interesting.
I don't think they look quite that crazy.
No.
Like,
they kind of just look like a log with two little dots on its head and little wiggly legs. So there's a great quote, I believe it's from this, it might have been from something else, but from that paper that I think sums up a lot of the stuff that we talk about with wildlife, like weird or interesting wildlife. Our human ignorance no longer based solely on superstition and faith, but rather from lack of land ethics has driven many to near extinction, which is from that article, I think. And I think that sums it up a lot really well.
That sums up a lot of what's happening.
A lot. But their weirdness, the weirdness of hellbenders has sort of elevated them to this like rock star status among Appalachian folklore. I'm sure we've probably all, maybe not all of us, but at some point you come across a video of someone being like, look at this creature that it lurks in the rivers of Appalachia. And
they would say Appalachia.
It's always Appalachia. It's always. And then they're like, isn't it weird? And then it's like over with. They don't give you any more information. So it's sort of like this mysterious, like, is it real? Is it not? But it's very much real.
It's definitely real.
It's definitely real. You can go see them in science museums. And they've sort of taken on this mascot status for a lot of Appalachia. So there's festivals. I got some of this from it's a mascot for like a poetic society, a literary society out of Asheville. Obviously a baseball team. It's also a mascot for a college in Pennsylvania. I wrote down the name. I'm not going to try and pronounce it because I know I'm going to butcher it, because it's like Lycoming? I want to say Lickoming when I first saw it.
Lycoming College, that's how I would pronounce it.
But my first thought was Lickoming College, and I'm like, that sounds
Lycoming College. That sounds like this should be like a naughty act or something, I don't know.
Right? Or like a really bad porno name.
Lycoming College.
Bow chicka wow wow. God. But back to the hellbender. In European accounts of the hellbender, here's just for example, naturalist John Bartram recorded in his journals up and down the Allegheny Mountains near Fort Pitt that he saw some sort of small kind of alligator. There's also a British soldier around 1766 who was stationed in the Ohio region of Appalachia, so that like section right in and around Point Pleasant, that was saying that he was hearing the indigenous people talk about their descriptions of something that sounded like an alligator, and was writing about them and started like hearing more stories and was taking in stuff. And then one thing led to another, and we got a bunch of white racism, including like the whole, we're smarter than these silly indigenous people and their folklore stories. We're going to science this. And they did that thing where like, we're going to discount everything you said. And then we've heard that this thing exists, so we're going to go look at it and not listen to your stories of, well, our stories say that these creatures live here. And we're just like, you silly indigenous people.
Oh, yeah. It's not like they fucking lived there way before you and, like, observed these things and, like,
yeah. And so
frustrating.
they took these stories and made them very, like, anglicized. And I had a really hard time finding any indigenous stories at all of them. Like, I looked and looked, and I'm sure there's probably some out there. I just could not find any, which is kind of annoying. I want to include some in here.
Yeah, the erasure of those stories is...
Yeah.
It's like a crime, and it never got punished. It's disgusting.
It's like, what can you do about everyone that did that for generations is now dead, and the only thing we can do is do better.
Yeah, exactly.
So they sort of worked this into American folklore, and it sort of became like this sort of, like I was saying earlier, like a mascot of the Appalachian Mountains, of Appalachian culture, sort of this wilderness ideal of it became like a symbol, and it's sort of been cemented in, and not everyone knows about them. If you haven't seen them, then you probably don't know about them, or you haven't, like, you're not into science or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But naturalists learned more and more about them, raising them more into the world of fact from fiction and myths and stories. But many people still, like I said, don't know what they are. And so some people may go visit the Smokies and spend some time out on the French Broad River and may see a strange beast lurking among the rocks that a lot of people haven't actually laid eyes on, and will go home and tell stories of a river monster that they saw. And, there's no wonder, because it is a kind of weird creature if you see it out of context and don't know anything. So, it's no wonder that little me, when I first saw one, when I was camping, went running to my mom going, Mommy, I saw a river monster. And then my mom's like, nope, that's just a big old salamander. I'm like, okay. So I asked around for some hellbender stories from people, and surprisingly, semi-surprisingly, semi-not, because it's surprising because a lot of my friends are kind of outdoorsy people and also sciencey people, but also not surprising because they're elusive creatures. But no one really had any stories of hellbenders, except for one friend who said that their dad had seen one once when he was out fishing. He didn't know what it was, and he looked down and saw one by his feet and thought it was like a freak of nature or a mutant from Oak Ridge or like a catfish. Oak Ridge is just a city. He thought it was like from across the way.
A mutant is crazy though.
Yeah. I mean, weirder things have happened.
I guess that's true.
And one thing that I thought was funny from my friend's description was that their dad said that the hellbender had, and I quote, a pleasant face, which I agree. And also, apparently, my friend's dad listens to the podcast, so shout out to that dude.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So, while you may not see one in the wild necessarily, if you do want to see one, the North Carolina Museum of Natural History has one on display in some of their wildlife exhibits, and they are incredibly cute. And I used to spend a lot of time at the Museum of Natural History and would just walk around and then hang out with the hellbender. So that's all I have for my facts and stuff. I want to sort of chit-chat about that, of like this creature that is definitely real but sort of sparks this debate and these conversations about river monsters and stuff. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it kind of reminds me of when people would say that they saw like the chupacabra, but it was like the chupacabra. And it was just like a dog with mange or something, or like a lot of people think a bunch of cryptids are like bears with mange.
Don't get me started on the bears.
Yeah, it kind of
we'll talk about bears.
It harkens back to like a lot of these things are probably real creatures, not necessarily whatever cryptid people think they are, but just either legitimate creatures or an animal that has a disease of sorts, or even a population that has a disease, maybe like something that's like spreadable or something that's like genetic in like a certain population, or something that's caused from the environment. There's just like you have to think about how many things can go wrong with people that make them look different, and then realize that like a bunch of crazy shit can happen with animals too.
Yeah, that's for sure. I thought this was interesting because, like, so many people thinking that they're river monsters, and it is, like, that's just how the animal is, and it's just not something a lot of people know about. That's, they're not seeing mutated versions of it, they're not seeing weird versions of it. It's just normal versions of the animal. They just don't know about this, like megafauna or this weird animal that exists, and they see it, and they're like, that's weird, that's wild. It's probably a cryptid of some sort. And like, you know, I love thinking about cryptids and talking about cryptids because it makes life more interesting and more fun to be like, yes, Mothman is out there, because that's more fun than thinking about how depressed I am at the moment, you know?
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
But it's kind of just an interesting perspective of, like, another good example of this is I knew that there were river otters in North Carolina. I recently found out that there are river otters this far west. I didn't know they were this far west. And if I'd have seen one from a distance in the river near where I live, I would have been like, wow, what is that creature? That's so strange. Until I like put two and two together and realized that was a river otter, you know?
Well,
Of just not being familiar of animals' ranges and what animals are. Sort of that, like, the misidentification of things, not just through circumstance of a animal that is mutated, or it's seen in dark conditions, or it's covered in mud, or it has one leg, or it has mange. It's like an animal seen in context, but you don't have the context for that animal.
Well, that's the thing, and before you could reverse image search stuff, how would you know what any creatures were? Really,
Yeah.
unless you saw them on a daily basis. Because there are, I mean, like, a ton of animals that live out in Colorado that I know that live out in Colorado, but I've never seen them. Because the fact of the matter is that 90% of the species that live in places, you're probably never going to see.
I mean, that's also a good point. If you're in somewhere you're not used to, like, if I didn't know what an elk sounded like, I went out to Colorado, I heard an elk bugle, I would be like, there's fucking ghosts. I'm going back to North Carolina.
Exactly.
Fuck all of this shit. What was that noise? You know, if you hear a bobcat out of context, you don't know what it sounds like, and it just sounds, or like a mountain lion.
Like, foxes sound fucking crazy. And if you don't know what a fox sounds like,
so scary.
It sounds terrifying.
Especially when you're in a tent 8 miles from from anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
On the back roads, and you back roads, and you just hear like animals screaming, and you're like, what is that? And
yeah, or like the noises that birds make. Like, I feel like bird noises get mistaken for cryptids all of the time.
I can't wait to talk about it more on our local lore episode, but there's a huge problem with like feral animals that are not native to that area, of like exotic species, and they'll like get out, and then people will hear them and like, oh my god, that's a like cryptid, or what is that noise? And it's just like a peacock or a flamingo, or like, because fucking North Carolina has batshit ass exotic animal laws.
And that's the thing, unless you can get a recording of it and then like ask people what it is, you are going to think that what you heard was some like crazy ass shit or some crazy ass cryptid forever. Because like, how else would you know? Yeah,
and then, you know, at a certain point that story will take on a life of its own, which is, you know, fun and cool, and that's almost just as interesting as cryptids, as like, you know, an actual cryptid. You know, both of those things are just as fascinating, of like how the story evolves into a cryptid, and if cryptids actually exist. That, like, that's cool to me, of how these things, but just the lack of context that comes with things, of just I wonder what that is, and your brain starts working and you come up with nothing, so you start creating these stories.
Well, and then it also makes you wonder of like how many times you hear something and you're like, oh, that crazy fucking scream in the forest is probably just a fox, and then it wasn't a fox.
Yeah.
There's truly some crazy ass creature out there.
It's all fun and games until the trees start crying like a baby. Yeah, you're gonna have fun going home on my long-ass gravel driveway tonight.
I hate driving on your gravel road at night, to be completely honest. I despise it. It freaks me out so bad.
It's so funny. I was like, I don't understand why people think it's creepy coming up to my house. And then I was coming up to my house in the dark after we were on our trip for a while, and I was like, I get it. Never mind.
It is. It's kind of freaky. Like, I just don't like being... If I was with somebody else, it wouldn't be that bad. But when you're, like, by yourself driving, like... on, like, a gravel road in the fucking, like, forest, and you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, it's, like, kind of freaky. And I also never have phone service, and so I'm just
in the middle of nowhere. I'm the edge of the middle of nowhere.
Okay, well, same difference. There's so many trees you can't see what's around you, so it doesn't fucking matter anyway.
Yeah, and it's so funny because all the hills and stuff, I'll see, like, we freaked out the other day because there's a weird light, and we realized what it was our neighbor was backing into their driveway, and it was coming through the trees, reflecting off of, like, we could see it reflecting off of my car window, off of the inside of our, like, I don't know why it was so bright, but it was reflecting off the inside of one of our windows through another one, because we have two windows that are at a corner.
Oh, interesting.
Like, over by where the dining room table is.
Yeah.
And then it was shining out onto a tree.
What? That's
it was
crazy.
Like bouncing around, and we're like, we're gonna get fucking abducted. What is this? We're like, get the fucking shotgun. We're like,
no,
freaking out.
You're gonna be the Hopkinsville Goblin guys. You just immediately pull out your guns and start shooting.
Yeah. It's North Carolina.
No.
Welcome to North fucking Carolina. We shoot people we don't know.
If I thought aliens were coming for me, I would just be like open arms, like, please take me from this planet.
No, what we did was we turned on the lights and, like, locked the doors, and, like, we're looking out, they're like, what the fuck is that? What is that? Huh? We're like, I hope we don't get abducted. I'm not going out there. Are you going out there? We were joking about going out there and shooting it, though, because North Carolina. But it turned out just to be our neighbors. Like, it's things like that, like, out of context, in the dark, in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it does. How many times do you think someone's heard a siren just in a city and assumed it's a siren, and it's just the sound of a UFO landing? Just saying.
They, like, purposely make them sound like that.
Just saying. Have you heard a Prius back up? That
my car sounds like a spaceship now that I have a fucking hybrid. It's crazy.
All hybrids, just when you back up, they go.
Yeah, it's all.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
One day, I'm gonna be standing out there directing you out of my parking lot. I'm gonna hear, think it's your car, and then I'm just gonna get fucking abducted. That's what's gonna happen.
It's gonna lift you out into the fucking sky. That's how they're gonna get you.
Yeah, and that's why you're backing up on your own tonight.
At least I have a backup camera now, so it's not a problem.
Yay.
Before I did not have a backup camera, and I was legitimately scared every single time I had to fucking back up.
You are the reason why I put little twinkle lights outside so you wouldn't just, like, drive off of, like, a cliff.
Yeah, because I used to back into so much shit in that car. It was bad.
You just backed up until you heard a crunch and then inched forward.
Dude, literally.
That's how you parked?
Yeah. It was not good. I would, like, literally just, like, back into shit and be like, alright, time to pull forward a couple inches.
We love that for you.
No.
Anyway, we're going off the rails.
Yeah,
it's
okay,
super late.
This has been like 10 minutes of us talking about random shit, so...
I wanted a little bit of us talking about random shit, and then we just got into stories about how I thought I was going to get abducted.
Okay.
Anyway.
You want me to do the outro this time?
You do the outro.
I fucking had it pulled up, and I guess I closed out of it when we were having audio problems. Thank you for listening. If you liked it, please rate the podcast and share it with the weird people in your life. Follow us on Instagram at whataboutweird.pod, where we often share pictures related to the episodes. We are also on Blue Sky as What About Weird Pod. If you have any topic suggestions or personal weird stories, please DM us or email us at whataboutweirdpod@gmail.com.
And always remember
to ask about the weird.
Bye for now!